Now, just before we go into politics, because we did say we were going to go into politics, as the Minister of Aviation, you had insight into some of the troubles with Nigeria's aviation industry where, you know, it has been largely privatized. You have advocated that government, you know, reduce itself in some of these activities. Now, why is it that privatization doesn't seem to have worked largely in the aviation industry?
Well, I don't know if to say it hasn't worked, because what's at issue is regulation. You have to have a proper regulatory framework in place. You have to have the right people regulating.
They see the airlines, quite a number of them failing. AMCON has to take over some of them from time to time. Right now, the largest one has been taken over by AMCON. We saw also one was bailed out initially. Now it's back to work in order, even though we're not quite sure how fully working it is. These are some of the issues that have plagued the industry.
The industry is an industry that is, has very poor economics. That's what people don't know about aviation. It has very poor economics. So if you go to South Africa, South African Airways is on oxygen mask. The moment the government pulls the oxygen mask, South African Airways will be dead. If you go to Kenyan Airlines, Kenyan Airways is almost in $300 and something million in losses. It's huge. If you go to the US, airlines die every day.
But not Ethiopian
yes.
Airlines.
So Ethiopian Airlines has a different business model. It sees this as a national resource. Is one of their major foreign exchange earners and is a very low-cost provider. So when people go into airline business and don't think about what makes Southwest Airlines successful, what makes Ethiopian Airlines successful, you need to get the model right. And part of the way to get the model right is that you need clear regulations. Now, you can't wake up in the morning ordering C-check for $1.5 million, which was 200 and something million naira. And then you wake up the following morning, you need to bring out 450 million naira for that. It's not going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to pay for that because you don't have the cash flow to support that. So I think that if you look at the Middle Eastern airlines, they are heavily on government subsidy. Etihad, Emirates have received close to $11 billion in government so-called loans to keep them going. So it's because they need them for a different purpose. They want to bring people to Dubai, and they're making sure that Emirates connects you. Now, I think that the key word here in Nigeria is that we have to, again, sit down as an industry and decide, what do we want to be? What does Nigeria want out of aviation? Do we want to increase it from a 0.4% contributor to GDP to 2%? Are there things the government needs to do to help the private sector lock in certain rates, do certain things to make it possible for them to thrive? So we need to figure out, do we want it as a trade facilitation point, or do we want it as a shopping mall? Because airports can be just simply shopping malls. Do we want to see more people fly in Nigeria by removing the obstacles that make people not fly? So these are questions that need to be asked, and we need to put the right people in the regulatory agencies to make sure that they are there as partners to the private sector. If there are no airlines, then there will be no regulator.
Well, we'll have that conversation. We'll definitely extend that conversation some other day. But let's talk about your intention to become governor of Anambra State. Now, first, would you do this under the umbrella of the PDP?
For now, I'm still in the PDP. But
for now?
For now, yes, because PDP is in a very serious problem in terms of leadership crisis. And we are watching closely, waiting for the Supreme Court to take its decision. If the decision goes one way, of course, I will not run with the PDP under that one way. If it goes the other, then I'll be certain about my prospects going forward.
But you mean that if it's if Sheriff wins, you're not going with him, are you?
The PDP, as presently constituted, yes. If
Ali Modu Sheriff, beg your pardon, wins at the Supreme Court,
yes,
will you be going with his faction?
No, I will not.
Okay. Now, quickly, there's also been word that you move to a United People's Party. Is that true?
That's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Now, a certain gentleman, I don't know if you've seen it, Chiedu Uche Okoye wrote an open letter to you on your ambition. He doesn't think that the PDP is the right party for you, but he also doesn't think that it's time for you to contest. Now, did you see the letter?
I think so. I thought I saw the letter. Chinedu, somebody who wrote from Ubusi or somewhere.
Yeah, he wrote, he thinks that, first of all, the history of the PDP in Anambra State, even though you have said that Anambra is a PDP state, he thinks that the history of PDP in Anambra State is not a good one, and he thinks that might even create problems for you, even without the divisions and the problems at the national level. Yes. Did you see that coming?
Yes, I saw that, but, part of the things that many people who talk about the PDP, some people say to me now, you're a little active now. And I said, yes, because I was one of the brains behind the rebranding and the remodeling of PDP under Obasanjo. As I went to the library to deliver a lecture, I gave him an original copy of the PDP's desirable qualities of a candidate, which I wrote then for the PDP, and his handwritten corrections to that paper. It was written in 2006. And I said, I'm donating it to the library just as a memento to Obasanjo's very, very fertile and hardworking mind on what his vision was for the PDP. So I understand the whole idea of PDP. Our whole idea of PDP was supposed to be an inclusive party, a party that brings down the ethnic tensions in Nigeria, that brings everybody to the table and makes us see Nigeria as one. It was an important issue for me as a member of the PDP. But the PDP that we have today is going southwards. The original intentions, the founding fathers' ideals, is no more coming up in the matter of the crisis post-election. And I can understand that. Post-election, most parties go into crisis. PDP has never been out of government. So after 16 years in office and leaving office, it's been difficult for it to find its bearing. It will take a matter of time, and it will. But I think that ultimately it may find its bearing. But for now, his point is very clear that PDP is fractious, because winning PDP tickets in Anambra was like 60% of the election.
He also thinks that it's not a time for you to run because, according to him, Willie Obiano is doing very well.
Yes. Well, that's a matter that is very subjective. I think that the governor of Anambra State has tried, but the election is not a referendum on him. The election is a referendum on what does the future of Anambra portend? What does it mean to be a young person in Nigeria today? What skills are you taking away from the schools that will make you employable down the line? As we know it today, next year the driverless car will go live on streets in London or maybe in San Francisco. The world is changing. The skills of yesterday are not applicable today. I think it's applying yesterday's solutions to today's problems.
And you think that you can deliver all of that with this imperfect system?
Yes, because the point I keep making about Nigeria is that at the national level, when we have these contradictions, we have to look at the islands of excellence. We have to look at the opportunity to begin to show what government that is thinking about the future is about. So I think that the model of development, the model of governance that the governor is doing in Anambra was very well suited for yesterday. But for tomorrow, that governance is not ideal. And I said, for those of us born post-Civil War, we need to find a new paradigm.
I'm afraid that we have to go now. Thank you for coming on Hard Copy, Osita Chidoka.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's the program tonight. Emails and tweets are welcome to the handles showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Maukbe Ogun. See you next week.